Welcome, guys. I'm so excited to be here because today is episode 1 of season 1.
This
is Mom's the Word. Where Mom knows best.
Or at least she's trying her best.
I know that's right.
That is really probably the most frustrating thing for me about motherhood is that I can really be trying my best and society is going to tell me that I'm not good.
Oh, absolutely. You could be the super mom.
It's crazy. And the guilt that you have on top of that, trying to constantly keep up with what they need me to do and the things in my own brain that I'm going to tell myself I need to get done as well.
Oh, for sure. And it's like you don't even put the guilt on yourself until somebody even mentions something. Like the smallest thing you could be doing wrong in their eyes. And then you automatically have this mom guilt that's like overwhelming with you.
Absolutely.
I get that all of the time.
Absolutely. And I feel like I'm constantly comparing myself to other moms. And I do it to my kids too. And I hate that I do that I'll compare my kids and where they are in their development to other children. And I'm like, well, am I failing? Am I failing as a mother because they're behind, or because the laundry's not done, or because dinner wasn't ready when my husband walked in the door?
And unfortunately for moms who have, 1 or 2 kids, it's a big impact on them. So for me, I've had 12 plus kids. And so I know all of these.
Can you just say that again? You have had 12 plus kids.
I sure have. Yes.
That's crazy.
Journey as a foster parent has been a wild one, but that's something that like in the beginning that I really had a hard time with was that I would have mom guilt for all of these different ages thinking I'm not keeping up. But now that I've had them all, I have this different perspective that's like, oh, all these kids are way different. They're going to do things on their own time.
Yeah.
They're going to excel at their own pace. And you know what I mean? Unlike a mom like you who have 2 young babies, they're putting all of this pressure on you. And you don't get to see that part of motherhood.
No, and I didn't with the bonus boys either.
Right.
Because I came into my bonus sons' lives when they were 9 and 10.
Right.
They were still sweet and little tiny voices at the time, but they were not babies. They could wipe their own butts at that point. I'm not doing anything other than just playing and having a good time with them as a bonus parent.
Right.
I didn't do any deep parenting of like teaching them how to eat or go to the bathroom or, what sound does a cow make? All of those things that all of a sudden that tiny human doesn't know that I'm responsible for teaching and making them aware.
Yeah. And why do we do it to ourselves?
Because society says we have
exactly.
to.
Like we're not the ones waking up every morning thinking we're a bad mom because we're trying our best. And I hope if you're thinking that you're a bad mom, then you're not. Because
please know that bad moms don't think about being a bad mom.
Never.
They never actually think to themselves, am I doing this right?
Mm-mm.
They just genuinely think that they are or they don't care.
Right. So like a big thing for me right now is that I had to pull my 7-year-old out of public school. And I had a ton of mom guilt for that. I sent him every day. I was crying. I had the weight of the world and people's opinions on my shoulders because this is how he should be. This is where he should be.
That's
school is where he should be. Yeah,
right.
That is normal. So pulling him, I felt like I failed. Like people were putting all of their opinions on me. I felt like I was failing. But now looking back, I'm like, he is thriving.
Yeah.
Right?
And you did it for him. You listened
literally.
to him.
And people want to say, well, he needs to be, in school around his peers. But what people aren't seeing is that he thrived outside of that. He lost his light in school. And I was able to help him find that and find a community of people who, took away those standards for me.
Yeah.
And made homeschooling such a normal thing for me now.
And y'all do really cool things. You have that co-op,
Right.
And
right.
you guys go and do like field trips and all sorts of stuff.
Chris always tells me I'm like the stay-at-home mom that does not stay home.
Never. She's never home. Can I just tell you, I am the stay-at-home mom. I'm 100% in the house. If you need me, I'm in the house or I'm at the Sam's Club.
Right.
Those are the 2 places you will find Paige.
Right.
Cyndi, never at home. Never.
And I had a hard time with that in the beginning because like leaving the house, I felt like I had pressure to, be a good housewife and be a good mom and have my kids looking the way that they needed to be, always perfect, and me looking perfect.
Yes.
And
makeup done.
Oh,
dinner
always
done.
Always.
Hair done.
Yeah,
Babies perfectly
always.
clean, pristine. The house needs to be clean. And I'm ready for my husband the second he walks in that door.
Yes.
If society had it their way.
That's what we would look like. We would all look the same.
It's impossible.
Impossible.
I've tried so hard. And all it does is ruin my mental health.
Oh, absolutely.
It really puts me in a gutter.
Burns you out.
In every way. It's just not worth it to me. No. I'm so much happier and so much more of a better mom, frankly, whenever I just go with the flow and I let it be.
Yeah.
There might be some fruit snacks on the floor. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. And you know what? When my husband comes home, dinner's not always done. And he doesn't get upset about that because I'm either nursing or I'm changing a bad diaper or I'm trying to clean, but the babies are going behind me and making it dirtier. It's not like I'm just sitting around doing nothing.
Right.
I am mothering.
Literally the hardest job that I feel like I put on myself is mothering.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to be a great mom. I want to be kind to his emotions and be like aware of who's around them and things like that. But I feel like society's putting things on me that makes me feel like I'm not doing my best.
Like I'll never be good enough. Ever.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And then whenever you took him out,
Mm-hmm.
can you talk about like what made you decide, okay, because I know at first, initially, whenever COVID was happening, you were homeschooling.
Yeah.
And then you were like, we're making the decision. He's going to a brick and mortar this year. Like it's time. And he seemed excited.
Mm-hmm.
You even seemed excited, even with the
Yep.
anxiety. What was it that was like, okay, this was not the right move for my son?
Yeah. So we did homeschool. I've always homeschooled since I've been a stay-at-home mom. And once school was fully opened, I felt a lot of pressure from not only my family, but from people around me saying that he needs to be in that environment. And so my heart always was saying, well, like, I want to homeschool, you know?
Right.
And so we put him in there and I was excited. I was trying to, you know, portray myself as being exciting, putting on this mask as to what I needed to be.
Right.
Because I didn't want him to be afraid.
Pretending so that it doesn't
Oh,
bother
absolutely.
him. Yeah.
Absolutely. I pretended. And he
crying at home or in the car
Oh,
by yourself.
I cried every day.
Oh, yeah, I would too.
It went from crying because he's there all day long and he's crying to crying because he cries every night.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of what people didn't see is that my son would come home and he would, his behavior would be, you know, way different than it's ever been before.
Right.
And then he was having a hard time at nighttime. He was having night terrors and it changed his whole body. Like his light was dimmed. And so I was crying to my husband every night about it. The weight was heavy. And so what did it was the school started to diagnose him as things that I knew he wasn't.
Oh.
And they
do try to put them in a box if there's any sort of difference in them, it seems. It's like if you're the interruptive kid, you're the problem child. It's not because you might have something learning wise that they need to look at.
And for him, I knew that there was nothing. And if there was, I'm very proactive. If he would have needed help, I would have been on it.
Right.
But I had homeschooled him for 2 years and I knew that he wasn't behind on these things and things like that. And what really did it is what they told me is that he had diagnosed school anxiety and they wanted to prescribe him anxiety medicine.
Oh, wow.
And I thought.
How old is he?
7.
Oh, that's, in my opinion, too early to be on medicine unless it's truly something that's necessary.
And so me crying to my husband, I made that decision. You know what? I can do this. Yeah. I've done this and I have a good community of homeschool families around me. Mm-hmm. I'm pulling him out.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, night terrors were gone. Anxiety was gone.
Night terrors.
And he was thriving. Night terrors.
What is that like?
It's like your child waking up in the middle of the night, a child who never wakes up, talking about, you know, his anxiety basically. Like he would wake up at nighttime screaming and he doesn't remember any of it. It's literally a bad dream that you're awake for. And his was, I can't read. I can't do math. I'm weak. Like saying those things as a 7-year-old crushed me. And I would go to my husband and, you know, vent to him. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Going to the doctor. And that devastated me. So pulling him was the best decision for my child.
And he's thriving.
Oh, and he's thriving.
He looks so happy.
Oh my God, he is thriving.
All the time.
We are in homeschool groups. He plays guitar.
He's a little rock and roll
He's in baseball.
artist.
He is thriving. But I had to take all of those standards that I thought were important and put them to the side.
Yeah.
And looking
then
back,
all the voices online as well that are telling you, because you shared online.
I did. Oh yeah, I did. And people's opinion, like, well, you were so excited. And I'm like, I had to mask that. And sometimes us moms have to. Oh, I had hope.
Right. It's not like you didn't try.
No,
you didn't go into it thinking like, this is not going to work.
Exactly. I wanted him to love school. I loved school.
Yeah.
I loved my teachers.
I loved to socialize. I didn't like school, but I was a social butterfly. I loved to talk.
But when he went, he didn't have that social butterfly.
Yeah.
It got taken from him. And so we're thriving now. And I've been really like, I really love that I can be that voice for some people now because my kids' emotions mattered. And
yes.
I can't put them to the side. And he's 7-year-old and people are like, he's going to get over it. No, he wouldn't.
No.
And even if he did, it would be on me for the rest of my life.
Literally, for the rest of your life, he will have remembered, well, I didn't really want to go to school. My mom homeschooled me. Mm-hmm. And that's just not worth it, in my opinion, to upset him that bad.
I'm very big on what your individual child needs. Every child needs something different. So if I have another child and they thrive in school, they're going to go to school. If they thrive at public or, homeschooling with me, that's what we're going to do. I want to do what's best for them. If they need resources and need to go to a school for that, absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did for our oldest. Our oldest son is autistic, and we placed him into a school that had resources that would help. And it was night and day difference in a huge way. And it has been just like the best decision that we ever made as parents, because they tried to put him in a box in public school. They tried, or in the school that he was in, they tried to kind of push him into a box of being the bad kid, the one that was reactive, the one that would get upset. And now he just thrives and he's happier. He's made friends. It's been night and day difference. I wouldn't change it for the world. Wouldn't change it for the world. Mom's the Word podcast is recorded at the Museum of Neon Lights in Frisco, Texas.
It is a selfie studio open to the public.
Mention the podcast and you'll get an exclusive 10% off.
So you have a 17-year-old.
Yeah, and 16.
Oh my God, 17 and 16. They must be so close in age.
They're actually 11 months apart. Technically, they're Irish twins.
Oh my goodness. So what was that like coming into their life as, so young, and they were old enough to realize?
Yes.
What was that kind of like?
Honestly, I tell Mark this all the time. I feel like I fell in love with his kids before I actually fell in love with him. I liked him so much, but his children, they're just innocent. They're so pure. They genuinely just want to know who you are, and they're so interested in you. And that was really cool for me. I have a stepmom, and so I always knew if I'm ever a stepmom to anybody, I want to be a really good stepmom. I want them to love me. I hate that evil stepmom picture that everybody puts forward.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be that. I wanted to make sure like I was a good bonus mom. We don't even call it stepmom. We say bonus mom because for whatever reason, stepmom just doesn't sound welcoming to me.
It doesn't.
And I don't call them my stepkids either. Like if I'm referring to my children, I'll just say my children.
Yeah.
If people get specific, I'll say, oh yeah, well, they're my bonus sons.
Yeah.
But I don't refer to them as, oh, those are my stepkids.
Right. And speaking of that, like what people don't know is that when you're around Paige and her kids, you can't tell that those are her bonus kids. They are your kids. But something that's interesting is that you do have a great co-parenting relationship.
Absolutely.
With their mom.
Yeah, absolutely. That was also very important to me because my biological mom and my stepmom never have had a good relationship. Even just in general, the dynamic is not good. So it was very important to me to have a good relationship with their mother. Their mother's name is Azita. She is probably one of my closest friends. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time with her. Naturally, we have children. We're doing a lot of the same things all the time. We're at basketball games. We're, going to the gym together.
Yeah.
We hang out. She's my girl.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just so important to have that relationship with her. Because I will never be their mother.
Right.
At the end of the day, she is their mother. And I don't want to take that from her at all. She's a fantastic mother. It's not like in my situation where my mother was not around and my stepmom came in and filled the position.
Yeah.
It's not like that. This is an active mother who is there every day, that shows up, that makes the schedule, that is truly, it is a 50-50 relationship. And we work through everything together. So I didn't want to come in and make her feel like I'm trying to replace you.
Yeah.
The only thing that I really wanted to replace her as was I wanted to be Mark's wife, and she was no longer. So it wasn't an issue. Yeah. They had been split for 8 years when Mark and I met.
So did it come really easily for you guys? So
for her and I, absolutely. Her
great.
And Mark had a bad relationship. Whenever I first met them, it was very obvious as to why they had divorced. They were very bad at communicating. They were just horrible to each other in a sense that they know the buttons to push and they would do it. And I was kind of the middleman there for a little while where I was like, we need to kind of work our way around this and figure out this dynamic, because your children are going to very quickly tune in to these conversations that you're having about each other. And the last thing that you want is for your son to be like, oh, well, daddy thinks that mommy is a hateful person. Mm-hmm. That's the last thing you want to hear.
And it could have easily went that way. Like if you would have got with Mark and just took on what his, opinion was, it could have easily went that way.
Oh, absolutely. Or if I had to come in and been like super jealous of the past relationship and had been hateful towards her, or thought that I was their mother and came in and tried to replace her. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine if somebody came in and tried to mommy my children over me, I would absolutely have a fit.
Absolutely.
Absolutely have a fit. I know my place as a stepmom. I do know that there is parenting that I have to do as a stepmom, and sometimes I have to be the strict one. My kids will tell you of their parents, I am the strictest of the three of us. But at the same time, if Azita steps in and it's her turn and she checks me out, I'm checking out. I'm backing out. I'm stepping off. It's not my place to over mother her. Yes. She's the ultimate mother and I'm the bonus mom. Yeah. I'm just there in the background. If anything, I just kind of help her more than anything. I'm just kind of like rooting her on. Yeah. And it has made our relationship and our friendship so easy because of that, because I came in with immediate notice of I want nothing more than to respect you as their mother. Right. There's no reason for her and I to have any issues because the person that I'm after that we had mutually in common is Mark. Yep. She's not interested in him. And there's never been any weirdness there that they were still flirty or any of those things. So I do say this with a grain of salt whenever I say it's possible to co-parent because I know that there are relationships out there that are not lucky like we are, that are still flirty with each other, that still make inappropriate comments or that are just downright hateful towards each other. And something bad has happened in the relationship. They've carried it into the co-parenting relationship. And then the spouse comes in and they take on that hatred too. Because I have seen that. Not that I've ever been part of a position like that, but I have seen where somebody comes in and they're like, oh, the baby mom is just horrible and she's terrible to him and she did all these things and she's not a good mom. The kids are better taken care of at my house. I could never ever even think that, let alone say that to Azita. Ever.
And it's so interesting because when you met Mark, you were not a mom yet.
No.
So for you to even have that respect towards her and that relationship is like incredible.
I feel like I've always had that motherly instinct inside of me though. Mm-hmm. And then growing up the way that I did, I really was determined that if I'm going to be in a relationship where he has kids, I'm going to make sure that this co-parenting relationship is healthy. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, my parents did not like each other. And the only person that it hurt, the only one that gave a damn at the end of the day was me. Yeah. I was the only one that suffered from that because my mom doesn't care that my dad doesn't like her. They haven't liked each other for 30 freaking years. Why would they start now? Right. I, however, had no idea that that was not normal, that they weren't supposed to like constantly fight, cuss each other out. You're not supposed to hear bad things from another parent about your other parent. I didn't know that that wasn't normal. So I'm genuinely the only person in that entire relationship in all of those years that struggled from the comments that were made. I would never do that to my bonus kids or to any child. Yeah. But to imagine putting them in a position to where they feel like, well, is my mommy a bad person? Yeah. Because that's what's going through that child's head is the questioning because they trust you as an adult. Mm-hmm. They trust you to know right from wrong and who's good and who's bad. And if you're saying this person is not a good person, they're going to believe you. Yeah. And that's just so unfair to do to that child's mind. I think that even if you dislike the person that you have to co-parent with, if you're capable of having a cordial relationship in front of your children, you are doing such good work and you don't even realize it, that if you are capable of at least pretending, your child will never know that there is something wrong. Exactly. And that's really the only person in the entire equation that should matter. Yep. Is your child. Yep.
I have a whole, separate view on children of separation, right? Mm-hmm. As a foster parent, they are separated. Yeah. And like you as a child, you got to hear what was going on, right? And it affected you lifelong. Yes. So now you coming into this situation, you had a really great perspective on what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is amazing. And what some people don't know is that Azita comes to your house and is around, you and Mark's younger children.
Yes. Yeah.
And it is a beautiful thing to see.
They call her Auntie Zizi.
Uh-huh. But because you did that, you broke down that wall and made it a positive environment. All of the kids thrive together.
Oh, yes. We do everything together. To like, her family came to our wedding. Like her parents, her grandparents, even an aunt came to our wedding. We celebrate, Azita is Persian, so she has a Persian New Year. It's called Eid al-Nowruz. We celebrate with their family every single year. I make a traditional cake for the family. It's a whole thing. We do Christmases together. We do New Year's. We do Easters. I just did Father's Day, and her dad came to our house, and I had a steak special for him. When her mom is out of town, I'll take her dad dinner to make sure that he's fed. Like, we are a family, we are a unit, and I think that is what's making all the difference in our kids' life is because they'll think back on traditions they had as a kid, and they won't remember. Oh, well, we had to go to my dad's, and then we had to go to my mom's, and then sometimes I'd spend Thanksgiving with my mom, and sometimes I'd spend Thanksgiving with my dad, and it's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
They will know, oh no, like we had sleepovers and we all had matching pajamas and we watched The Grinch and we all hung out together and it was so much fun. And I think that they don't realize it now, but I think looking back in 10 years, I hope at least that they'll be like, that was so cool.
Oh, I think for sure they will.
I hope so.
They don't know the impact that it's going to have because not all families can do that.
Yeah. And I think that they probably won't even be able to appreciate it deeply. Because they won't know what it's like to come from the other side.
They don't even know.
And I'm so thankful that they won't know. Like it's okay with me that they won't truly be able to appreciate it as much as possible because I would rather them not know at all what that pain feels like. I mean, honestly, if you look at the bigger picture, you kind of go through the exact same thing as me whenever it comes to, not that I'm pretending, but whenever it comes to like parents who are pretending in a co-parenting relationship in a way. You are kind of in a co-parenting relationship.
Absolutely, I am. So I've been a foster parent for about 3.5 years now. And a big part of that is co-parenting with their biological family.
Of course.
And that is hard in its own. You know, these children come into care. I hear why they were removed. I hear what their family did. I hear what trauma they come with. But that same week, I'm dropping them off at a visit. With their family.
Right.
Because it's important.
And you have to make them feel safe.
And I have to make them feel safe. So when they're in my home, I'm only, talking good things about their parents. Like, your mommy misses you, your daddy's going to see you.
Yeah.
Like, I never share that side. I never share that I'm crying, that I have to send them, to something that could potentially be traumatic.
Right. Right.
And so it is almost like you're putting on a mask to protect the children's feelings.
Yeah.
Trauma runs deep from newborn to no matter how old they are. If they're experiencing foster care, it runs deep. And so I put on this face that is strong, that is brave for these kids because that's what they need. Right. They come to me broken and crying and I have to say, we'll see mommy soon, you know, and I'm very vague about how things go. But absolutely, I agree with you. We are in a sort of co-parenting existence. And once the, time goes on, I build a great relationship with the family and we are fully co-parenting.
You hold a lot of hope for those parents.
I do.
The second that child is placed with you.
Yes.
You are always so hopeful. And so they're going to get on their stuff. They're going to get this taken care of. Yes. Everything's going to be okay. You are the foster parent that is truly for reunification. I will say that just as a side note, I've never come across a single time where you're like, well, I kind of would just not like it. It's never. It is always, we are fostering to reunify them with these families. Yeah. We are just a temporary home.
Yeah. And it wasn't always like that. Foster care is scary, right? Really? Hearing why the kid got taken, you want to be mad.
I'm certain I would never be made for it. I would never. My attachment issues would never, ever, ever be able to let that child go.
But that's trauma that you've had as a child, right? Yeah. That now I'm carrying for other children that I don't want to continue.
Right.
And so it's heavy. And I cry a lot. But in front of the kids, I would never.
Right. Right.
Like, I am there to be that person for them that they need me to be. That, their parents cannot be. And it took me a while to learn that. I had to go through being mad and then finally meeting one of the parents and realizing, like, this is just a mom at her lowest point.
Yeah.
So we're going to do this together.
Yeah. And you really never know. Like, you can meet somebody that is in the highest business position and they could have struggled at one point in life. And you may have judged them and think, well, they're never going to be anything. And then you meet them and they're like a CEO and they're incredible because they've overcome those things. I like to believe in humanity in that sense, that like you can make deep mistakes and still come out on top later. That's the ultimate thing about forgiveness, is that genuinely you can change your life. Now, there are a few things that I think you can't come back from, like murdering, things like that. I'm never, ever going to be like, you better hope for you, brother. You know, like those things are obviously not.
But we're human. We're going to make simple mistakes. Though.
Yes. Yes.
And
like drug addiction.
Yeah.
My sister is an addict and I have to hope that if she wakes up one day that she'll be able to have a brand new life and restart, and that no one will look at her and think she's only ever going to be this, that you can change.
That's right.
You know?
Yep.
And I think that that's important for you, especially to hold on to that hope that people can change because of these children, that you're looking in their eyes and having to tell them like,
and I have
mommy's
to.
going to show up, you know,
Yes.
everything's going to be okay.
Yes.
I bet you have to hold kids through those moments where they don't show up though. And that has to be one of the hardest things.
The hardest things. Putting on a face to disappointment, putting on a strong face to a child who's disappointed is one of the hardest things that you'll see.
I can remember as a kid whenever my mom was supposed to come for like an every other weekend visit and her not showing.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember that feeling to the point where I don't feel like I have a lot of childhood memories, but quite a few of them are like me sitting on the porch, like watching and waiting. I know you obviously drive your children to these visits, but are there ever moments where they call you and they're like, they're not coming?
All the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Getting all the way there, an hour and a half away, and waiting in your car, like they're here coming soon, and nobody shows up.
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine, especially being that parent who hasn't seen that child for a couple of days or weeks and then doesn't show up. I can't go to the movies without freaking out. I'll be in a 2-hour-long movie and I'm like, when are the credits rolling? It's time to go. My baby needs me. Yeah. I can't imagine. It's one of the reasons why I feel like I can't take a vacation.
Yeah.
Because people always say, you know, my mom would be like, my stepmom would be like, let me keep the kids for the weekend. You know, you guys go out and do something fun. And that is not a break for me. Mm-hmm. It's not a break. I'm not one of the moms who wants her children to go away for the weekend so she can go do something fun. I feel like doing something fun involves my kids. Yeah. There are times, of course, there are a time and place for everything. I think me and my husband need private vacations. It's fun to go on girls' trips. It's just not a constant for me. And I feel like it is for some people where they're like, oh, I need my break. Right. I don't need the break. Yeah. I don't want it. The break gives me anxiety. It makes me feel like, okay, what is my child doing? Have they been fed? They're not being loved the way that I would love them, because no one is going to take care of your kid the way that you want your child to be taken care of, or the way that you would take care of your child. So for me, it's just a constant source of anxiety. It's not an actual relaxing moment. Yes. But sometimes, you know, like, I feel like breaks are much needed. And a lot of, you know, you not being able to take a break is a lot of childhood trauma that you have. Yeah. And, you know, being abandoned and things like that, because breaks are needed, moms. Yeah. Breaks are needed, and they're hard, and anxiety is real. No. And it's so real for you to be like, because I get anxiety too, but your childhood trauma and mine are way different, you know, whereas my mom asks me for a weekend and I'm like, I would love that. I would love a break. And so we need to get into that. My thought is like, you're going to take my kid and I'm never going to see them again. And it makes me panic. It makes me feel like they're not going to be there. And it puts me in a state where I can't get out of it. I try so hard to be like, this is just your thoughts. This is just your brain. And it will spiral. And that's honestly, whenever I realized like I'm not in control, is when I talked to a doctor and was like, something is wrong. And I feel like this anxiety is controlling me. Yeah. And that's whenever I actually had to see a psychiatrist, and they were like, no, it may have started as anxiety, but this is in fact OCD. Yeah. The way that you are obsessing over it, and the compulsive behavior afterwards of like feeling like I need to see them. I need to see them now. I need to put my hands on them. I need to check them. I need to see that they're breathing, their eyes are open, they're okay. Yes. All of those things. We have a pool. Oh, we have a pool. I hate it. I know that you're supposed to love it. It's supposed to be the best thing ever. But to me, anxiety. It's just a huge pit of danger. Right. It's just a huge pit of danger. And my son is very adventurous, and he loves outside, and he loves the pool even more. Yeah. And so for me, I can be scrolling online, and you know how you'll see like the videos of a dog fall in the pool, and then it's for a few minutes the dog's like trying to get out, and another dog saves it, or it's something heroic. It's always amazing. Right. There's always a good happy ending. For me, the panic of waiting for the saving to happen puts me in a state of it, like out of control. I'm out of control immediately, and I don't see that dog anymore. That's my child, and in my brain, that's my child in my pool, and I can physically feel him. I can feel his limp body. I can hear myself screaming for Mark to call 911. I can feel it. And if I don't get up and go see him right then and see he's safe and check the pool, I can walk in his room and see him sitting there. If I don't go out to that pool and see that pool is empty, I will have a panic attack. I will not be able to control it. My body shuts down, my brain shuts down, and all of a sudden, everything dangerous that could possibly happen floods to the front of my head, and it's all happening. There is no way to stop it, and I have to protect him. And that's whenever my doctor was like, yeah, babe, you have OCD. This is not just anxiety. This is not just like I'm a little bit nervous
Not
or I'm
everybody
feeling
thinks
uneasy.
this way.
Yeah,
Right.
this is like detrimental, like you won't get out of your head.
Yes.
And you genuinely think this is happening, and it's not. It's okay to come back in. I think that does stem from a lot of trauma.
Absolutely, it does.
I hate to even have to admit that.
No, and it's so crazy to hear you talk and be in my position that I am, because my goal is that when I get a little Paige who comes to my house with
I'm gonna
same,
cry.
I'm sorry, that same abandonment issues,
Yeah.
that I can hopefully fill that void where I can.
That void is so big.
And
I
it
will
is.
say from a child, and this goes for any mom as well, that maybe a stepmom or maybe a mom who the dad's not in the picture, somebody who understands their child has an abandoned parent, where it's a mother or father, whatever. There's an abandoned parent there. You will never be able to fill that void.
Right.
As much as you try,
Right.
as good as you are,
Yep.
as whole as you are, you will never be able to fill that void. My stepmom is the most beautiful human I've ever come across. She is kind and sweet and did everything to make sure that I had a normal childhood. And all I genuinely remember is the pain of my biological mom not being there. Now, as a 20, oh my God, I almost said 26. I'm 31. Oh my God. As a 31-year-old woman. Wow. We're taking it
Some
back.
years back.
Jeez Louise, in my dreams, I'm 21 with 10 years of experience.
Oh my God.
As a 31-year-old woman, now I look at her and I think, you're an angel. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You are my best friend. You are my mom. Like, she is that person for me now. And I probably realized that at about 26. But from 7 to 18, she was not my mom.
Yeah.
And in my brain, she was not my mom. No matter how much she tried to care for me, she wasn't it. And she couldn't be it.
Mm-hmm.
And I held on to, my mom's going to come back. And that made it to where I couldn't really open that door to be like, okay, well, you are technically being my mother.
Yeah.
You're feeding me every day.
Yep.
If I went missing, you know the color of my underwear.
Yep.
You could tell, anybody anything about me. This person doesn't even know my teacher's name, let alone, what I'm doing in life right now or what I like or my hobbies. But as a child, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So I constantly try to tell people who ask me for advice, like, how do I keep my child from feeling that? Know that you can't.
Mm-hmm.
They will feel it. The only thing that you can do is tell them that it wasn't their fault.
That's right.
It's not their fault. Because for me, I carried it like it was my burden.
Yep.
Like something was wrong with me. Something wasn't there. I didn't make them love me enough. Maybe I was too hard of a baby. Maybe I was too much as a toddler. I was so confused. Like, what is wrong with me? And as a child, you look around, on Thursday afternoon when it's, dinner with dad, muffins with mom, and all these fun things. And you look around and there's no one there for you. And you're like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have that? And you look at all these movies and these TV shows on Disney Channel, you're watching them, they all have a mom and a dad. And they're all just having so much fun with their parents. And you're like, something inside of me was broken. Something was not right.
Yeah.
And that's why my mom doesn't love me, which is crazy to think, because then you start to think to yourself, you're supposed to be channeled to love me. Like,
I know.
you're supposed to automatically look at me and just think I'm the best thing that ever happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't. And that to me was so hard. It probably easily took me until I was about 25.
Absolutely.
And it led me to a lot of shitty relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that friendships, I was a huge people pleaser. It didn't matter if they were bad to me. I would just hold on to them. That went for love relationships too. I was in a marriage for a very long time that was absolutely horrible.
Right.
And I feel like if I had been more confident or at least love myself a little bit more, I wouldn't have put myself into that position. But because I was so terrified of the abandonment, of that feeling again, that hole, I was filling it with people, with friendships, with relationships. I was trying to fill that hole inside of me that when they would leave, it was like ripping that wound open over and over and over again. And it continued that thought process of, I'm not good enough. No one is ever going to love me for who I am. And it's normal to have failed relationships in your early 20s and your teens. But for me, I was like,
everything was,
I'm going to be alone forever.
yes.
You know, I'm going to be alone forever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so truly, it was just about finding that self-confidence and realizing, no, I'm actually a decent human with a big heart. And it was never my fault that they didn't have it in them to love me.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's hard because parents don't know they break you and you stay broken for a long time.
Yeah. And some of them don't even try to break you. Mm-hmm. They're literally just doing their best.
Yep.
And then they go into the denial state of nothing's wrong with you, which doesn't help, of course. But it's hard. Being a parent is hard. This is a lot.
It is. Oh, it's the hardest thing that we can do. Being parents, moms and dads and caregivers, it is the hardest.
Yes, it absolutely is. This is heavy.
This was heavy today.
This is heavy for episode 1.
We have so much to talk about, you guys.
We have had a lot of fun. This has been fun today.
So good.
I feel like next time maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into foster care.
I would love that. Yeah.
You ready for that?
I'm ready for that.
I don't think you're ready for this, Jelly. Okay, guys. Well, that's it for today.
Keep the giggles going.
And the love flowing.
Thank you guys for watching. Mom's the word. Where mom knows best.
Or at least she's trying her best.